So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZW Games 5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below.
What's up YouTube, Darryl here from ZW Games, bringing you a budget Ancient Warrior deck profile. Now, Ancient Warriors are kind of like Fire Fist. They're like wind, water, and I believe we're also getting 2 other attributes coming out in Eternity Code as well. They're very, very cool. They use and abuse continuous spells as well, which is why you can probably understand it will use and abuse some of the Fire Fist cards as well. I have tried to make this deck as budget as possible, and there are a lot of options that if you want to go a little bit more money, you can splash them in if you want to. If you want to go in different directions, like the YUGIOH rank up play, you can do that as well. So there's a lot you can move around in this deck and change it up, depending on the consistency you want to play. I think it's a very, very fun deck, and at the moment, I was picking up these Ultras for like £2 each. So either I got insanely lucky, or they're not hugely expensive. There's 3 Ultras out of the core, and you do play each of those at free, but you can probably get a playset of each of those for like 10, if not way less. So I definitely advise you picking them up. They do get better with Eternity Code, like I said. So without further ado, I'll take you through the profile, show you what we've got, and explain why we've got it. So we do play Triple of the Wind Ultra, Ancient Warrior, Victorious Lin Kuei. So this one is, while you control another Ancient Warrior monster, your opponent cannot target, or your opponent's monsters cannot target cards for attacks, which is great, or other Ancient Warriors for attack. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon 1 Ancient Warrior monster from your deck, except himself. When an attack is declared involving another Ancient Warrior monster you control, draw 1 card. So it gives you a bit of draw power during the battle phase. And he can be protected as well. So it's a very, very kind of cool card, and which is why he's one of the Ultras is most important. We then play Triple of the Water Ultra. So Masterful Sun Mu. Again, this card is awesome as well. So while you control another Ancient Warrior monster, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. You can only use... This one is that it can't be targeted for other attacks while you control more. So it kind of protects themselves, which is great. So you get a nice little lock if you get those 2 on board, because your opponent can't attack either of those. You can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard. Add 1 Ancient Warrior monster from your deck to your hand, except himself. If your other Ancient Warrior monster's effect is activated, except during a damage step, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So it's a nice little compulse within its own deck, which is really, really awesome. We then play Triple Ancient Warrior Loyal Guanzhong. So this card is awesome as well. If only your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So it's a nice little Cyber Dragon. But not only does it do that, your opponent cannot target other Ancient Warrior monsters you control with card effects. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So it kind of tries to balance out the playing field. We've then got 2 Graceful Xiao Gong. So again, Water 1, target 1 continuous spell or trap you control, send it to the graveyard. And if you do, add 1 Ancient Warrior spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. If your other Ancient Warrior monster is activated, except during a damage step, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Only use each effect once per turn. So we'll explain it a little bit more when we get to it. But the continuous spells allow you to kind of special summon monsters from your hand and extend your board, which is why it's important to search them out as well. We then have 2 Ancient Warrior Valiant Zhang Di. So against 300 attack for each monster your opponent controls during your turn only. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If you control 2 or more Ancient Warrior monsters, you can special summon this card from the hand. Nice free summon. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can activate this effect. This card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase this turn. Nice 2700 beater, does provide you with rank 7 plays as well, and it is a free summon. Finishing off the Ancient Warriors, we do play the 1 Eccentric Lu Zhong. So this card is, you target 1 continuous spell or trap you control, send it to the graveyard, and then add a different Ancient Warrior spell or trap card with a different name from your graveyard to your hand, so it gives you a bit of recurrence play. If your other Ancient Warrior monster's effect is activated, except during a damage step, you can target one spell or trap card your opponent controls and destroy it. So again, you can build this deck for going second or going first, depends on the way you want to play it. And then the only 5/5 main deck monster that we play is 2 Raven, purely because you normal summon this, turn it into Almirage, and you straight away get your Tensu or Tenki, whatever one you need the most. So it's very, very important. The fact that it's not hard once per turn as well, is you can loop it to extend and get your continuous spells going. And then finishing up, we've got Triple Ash Blossom. This could be any hand trap, so this could be Draw and Lockbird. This can be DD Crow, whichever the most important hand trap is of the current format. Change it up and around as best you go. Ash is better against the Rogue, but if you think your locals or your event that you're going to is going to be heavy in one direction, then you adapt it to as what you see fit. We then play Triple Ancient Warrior Saga 3 Visits. Love the artwork on this card. Beautiful. This is the best thing about the Ancient Warriors, that it's absolutely beautiful artwork as well. So during your main phase, if you normal or special summon an Ancient Warrior monster or monsters, you can target one of those monsters, add one Ancient Warrior monster with a different name from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent from the spell and trap card zone to the graveyard, you can special summon one Ancient Warrior monster from your hand. Only use each effect once per turn. Send this card to the graveyard during your second standby phase after activation. Now 9 times out of 10 you're going to be sending it anyway because you want to be special summoning from the hand. And like you said, you search out a different monster that can search out your level 7s, and then your level 7s can special summon themselves, and then you can get rid of this, and then this will then special summon another one, so you can flood the board quite consistently. Triple Super Poly, not only can it break your opponent's board, but it can actually give you a nice little power play, and I'll show you exactly what it is in the extra deck. You should guess it by now. Triple Tenki, of course, they are all Beast Warriors, so you search, search, search. Triple Tensu, because you're constantly sending your continuous spells and traps to your graveyard, you can actually afford to play more than 2 of this card as well. You play it at 3, get the additional summon, send it to the graveyard, off you go, and then you just keep extending from this onwards. Triple Call by the Grave, because we hate hand traps, especially in this deck more so than not. You do not want to lose like your Ash or anything like that, because it can be very, very painful if they hit you at the right time, especially with some of your cards having a sender's cost as well. That can really, really disrupt your plays and your extension. Then you play 2 Ancient Warrior Sun Lu Alliance. So if you control Ancient Warriors monsters with 2 or more different attributes, quite easy to do, and it gets even easier when we get the next wave of support, you can declare one attribute. Your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control currently with that attribute until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. If your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, or you activate an Ancient Warrior monster's effect except during a damage step, you can make all Ancient Warrior monsters you control gain 300 attack for each Ancient Warrior monster you control until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. Only use each effect once per turn. So again, you give your monsters a nice little boost, you neg one of your opponent's monsters, and then you send it to the graveyard. And then for the final 3 spells, we've got the 1 Fire Formation Engine, the 1 Monster Reborn, and the 1 Pot of Avarice. Now, you can play the Ritual spell because it is kind of like a Monster Reborn, and then you would have to put more Fire Fists in there just so you can use the Ritual ability. It is a can effect, so you do get to choose. But the reason we've gone with Ingent is because you can actually make the fusion quite nice and easy. So not only can Super Poly break your opponent's board, this can be used to make the fusion monster as well. And then it means you can pop something during the battle phase as well. And if you've got the trap, well, obviously Monster Ball is quite explanatory. If you've got the trap as well, the trap's pretty awesome. I'll get to that in a minute. But that kind of stops your opponent, protects your Ancient Warriors during the battle phase. Avarice for the grind. You want to control the game as much as you possibly can. You can put a lot of your resources into the graveyard, so being able to shuffle them back and then get 2 new cards is always important. If you wanted to, it could easily be an upstart, just to give the deck a bit of draw power. So the trap card, Ancient Warrior, Defense of Chimglam. If your Ancient Warrior monster battles, your opponent cannot activate any spell or traps until the end of the damage step. You can only use one of the following effects of Ancient Warrior once per turn, and only once that turn. At the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can send this face-up card from the spell and trap card zone to the graveyard. Monsters your opponent controls cannot target Ancient Warrior monsters for attacks, so complete shutdown. Like, if you haven't got, if all you've got is Ancient Warriors, and they don't think about this, or they don't get rid of this, or they don't even see it, you activate it, send it, stops them. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish this card from the graveyard, special on 1 Ancient Warrior monster from your deck. So you're going to be using the first effect a lot more as a defensive play, and the second effect as more of an extension play, but it does mean that your opponent has to attack you. So you have to play that very, very carefully. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll go from the Link 4s down. So we're playing 2 Link 4s at the moment, Unchained Abomination and Borrowload. Unchained Abomination is not a necessity, I just quite like it. It could easily be a Borosword if you want. The Borolo Dragon is just there to outstuff like Spirals, because right now, the fact that it can't be targeted is beautiful, especially when it comes to Sleeper, because then you just steal their Sleeper, and then from what I've had it ruled, is you can use Sleeper's effect if it hasn't already been used. Sleeper pops himself to destroy 2 cards on your opponent's field, and then Sleeper, because it goes to your opponent's graveyard, will then nuke your opponent's board, which is beautiful, like awesome, why would you not? And then got the 1 Unicorn, we got the 1 Phoenix, and we got the 1 Dromadol, 2 Beast Warriors, so it's very, very effective in this build, or in this deck specifically, and then being able to pop one of your spells on one of your opponent's spells is also going to be very, very useful. The 1 Underclock, just to give your cards a little bit more extra boost, doesn't need to be played, but like I said, I've tried to keep this budget. If you don't want to play this and you've got IP Masquerena, that definitely goes in. The 1 Almirage to get rid of your Raven and then get your Fire Formation spell. And then you've got your 3 Super Body targets of your Starving Venom, your Dracus Depelio, and your Mud Dragon or Swamp. And then you've got the Brotherhood of the Fire-Fist Swan. So just because it requires 2 Beast Warrior monsters, and then if it's special summon, inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each Fire Formation spell track card you control. You might control 2, you might control 1. And then during the battle phase, quick effect, you can send 1 Fire Formation spell track card to your graveyard and target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. So again, it's a nice additional pop. But it's just another form of extension to be able to get into a 2600 fusion beater using monsters from your hand, and then you can start recurring cards from the graveyard as well. And then we've got 3 rank 4s, so these can be any rank 4s you wish. So you've got your Abyss Dweller, your Exxon Knight, and your Tornado Dragon. These can be Bagooskers if you want them to be. They could also be Cowboys for the gameplay as well. And then we've got the 1 rank 7, and that is the Red Ice Flare Metal Dragon, just for the ability that you've cleared your opponent's board off, or you've done a lot of damage, make Red Ice Flare, and then they struggle during time because it's quite a big beater to get rid of. Like I said, if you're worried about time, this can easily be a Cowboy. It can also be a Big Eye if you want. You do have the ability to make rank 7s, so I thought one of these would be most beneficial, and I kind of went with the Red Ice Flare. Like I did mention as well, because you have the ability to make rank 7s, you could make the Absolute into the Raging Dragon into your Kali-Yuga play as well, should you wish, but it would mean putting in Boots in the extra deck, not in the extra deck, in the main deck as well. You do also have the ability for Instant Fusion if you want to put a bit more money in it. It just gives you a bit more protection. It means you can do Thousand Eyes and Millennium Eyes, so you've got both first and second uses out of out of that card as well. So it does give you a lot to plan to play around with, and then kind of move further forward from there. Again, because it's not a deck that heavily relies on the extra deck, you can easily play Extravagance should you wish. If you have it, by all means do so. But like I said, what I've tried to do with these decks, and what I'm going to do with Megalith as well, is I'm going to try and keep them as budget as feasibly possible. Because we want to be able to showcase off all of these new decks, and also showcase the ability of being able to build them cheaply as well from a brand new set. So, I hope this deck helped. I hope it gave you a couple of ideas on your own build. And like I said, there's a lot of variations that you can kind of play around with it, and different directions you can go with it. And it's a very, very fun deck. Like, if you're a fan of Fire Fist or Boujins, I highly advise you pick this deck up, because it is a lot of fun to play around with. And it only gets better during Eternity Code as well. So, it's definitely a nice investment for the future if you want to look at it that way too. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. And as always, guys, happy dueling.